Greetings, listeners in listener land. Welcome to St. Louis in Tune with Arnold Stricker and Mark Langston, where we size up current and historic events involving people, places, and things in areas such as the arts, crime, education, employment, faith, finance, food, government, health, history, housing, humor, justice, and sports. We originate from and connect the gateway city to our country's current cultural fabric and lives. I want to get to know the two people sitting in front of me because they have some exciting things happening very soon here in St. Louis. And we have Prasanna Kasturi and Samanvita Kasturi are both here in studio. And I will let them talk a little bit about themselves, but I want to give a little brief introduction. Mr. Kasturi is the artistic director of Surya Performing Arts in St. Louis. He has performed internationally and also here in the United States. He's established many arts academies in India and here in the United States. He comes from a family of literature and music. And Samanvita has performed at the Sheldon, at the Webster Arts Fair, at the Muni, and also she won the prestigious Fox Teen Talent Competition and performed there also. Welcome to St. Louis in Tune, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Now, the reason you guys are here is you have been working on just an unbelievable kind of performance that's going to be held at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center Saturday, August the 13th, 2022. And it's entitled, let me pronounce this correctly.
Samarpan.
Samarpan, yes. Right. And what is Samarpan?
Samarpan is a Sanskrit word for sacrifices. Independence movement, a lot of millions of people gave up their lives, livelihoods. So the Indian subcontinent can be self-ruled, freedom. So Samarpan basically means sacrificing.
Sacrifice to get independence and freedom.
Yes.
And we're talking about this because it is the 75th anniversary of India's independence.
That's right. This is the 75th year of independence. Prime Minister Modi, he wanted to make this a special event because it's 75 years of independence. So he made it something called Amrit Mahotsav. That's the way to celebrate the beautiful feeling of nectar of freedom. So Amrita means nectar. So he wanted people to remember, because after 75 years, people do forget if somebody got them the independence. So he wanted to make it a big thing. So in India, a lot of events are happening. All across the globe also, a lot of Indians are celebrating. And we, from here, we thought we can, instead of just celebrating, we can remember who gave us the independence. So that's the main reason why we are doing this huge production called Samarpan.
Now, I want to be able to help teach, for lack of better words, but inform listeners of the Indian culture a little bit, because you talked about the nectar,
yes,
and which is a different kind of thought process that I think a Western person would have. Describe that a little bit more so people understand exactly. I get what you're saying from that, but I want to hear that from you specifically.
Nectar, basically, in this concept is basically the one which gives you life back. So that's what it means. So in the context of our India's independence, getting back the freedom is getting the life back to decide what you want to do, how you want to live. During a British colonialism, nobody had any independence to make their own decisions. It was pretty hard. Ancient mythology, when somebody has a nectar, he will never die. So okay. That's a whole thing. It's called Amrita. Mruta means dead, getting dead. Amrita means eternal. So eternal feeling of happiness will only come if somebody is free to think, free to do what he wants to do. So that's why this Amrita Mahotsava is, okay, you have been given this freedom for so many years, so use it carefully, otherwise somebody else you may lose it. So Amrita is basically something eternal.
That's something that I think everyone in every country needs to appreciate.
Every human being should, yes.
As I went back and did a little history of India and found several things that I was not aware of, specifically the number of troops that were sent in World War I and World War II. I was not aware of that at all.
Yes.
And millions perished who came from India to fight for the British. I was really surprised about that. That's something I learned in my discovery about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
So we're actually doing a scene about what you were just talking about the Quit India movement, and it's where World War II was happening, and the British were like using India to produce food and like supplies for the war effort, but all of those supplies were only going to the war effort, leaving the Indian population with little to no food, and it led to a huge crisis, a huge shortage in food, and we had this great famine going on, and I didn't know about a lot of these historical events, but as we were dancing and rehearsing, it's very emotional to enact the lives of people who've had their food and resources taken away from them, and they don't even have like a choice in that. So it was new for me as well, for a lot of kids my age. Like we don't know a lot about these historical events, so it's very eye-opening for us as well.
And I was reading that you were not really doing this for the youngsters, but it's a celebration, but also it's a passing down of a heritage and a history that maybe some are not aware of, as your daughter was talking about. And so let's take this apart a little bit,
Okay.
the production, because before we went on the air, you were saying you just got done completing some of the last minute kinds of things, which I think is typical.
Yes.
And they're never really quite done.
No, not done. Still, there's more things to do.
And so the intended audience for this production is
Anyone who is interested in knowing about liberty and freedom, they invest. Liberty and freedom comes only Western point of view, but when you start applying in on a humanity basis, it applies to everybody.
absolutely.
Anybody who loves to see, okay, a huge population being suppressed by a small population. The size of England is probably 1/15th of size of India. So imagine 200,000 people are suppressing 300 million. We didn't fight violently until the last minute. So Gandhiji said, okay, let's go with non-violence. That's one of the major tools he gave to the universe. Anybody who likes human attributes, human qualities, they should come and watch our show. Because a lot of people don't know about this. As you mentioned, World War II, the entire Indian subcontinent was dragged into the World War II, which is basically a European conflict. A lot of our resources were taken into it. So whereas the 25% GDP of India at 1600, it reduced to 0.0% GDP when in British left. So who took the wealth? Britain talks about Magna Carta and democracy and everything. Still talks about fighting about fascism against Hitler. But he is the same guy, he said he doesn't want to give any independence to India. Why is that? So that one-sided thinking of democracy doesn't work anywhere in the world. So this is what this is open for anybody who loves democracy, who loves the thought of freedom. They should come and watch because they don't know this. And I don't think in America kids are taught about anything about this huge independence movement which happened in a subcontinent this scale. I don't think anybody knows it. So we talk about July 4th, talking about independence, freedom, liberty. It should apply for all humans, right? So anybody who likes that kind of concepts, they are free-minded, they should come and watch. So as a matter of fact, this show is for everybody. It's done in 7 languages, including English. We put other languages so the people can see there are languages which were grown for so many centuries. Making a language is not easy. So they have to come and listen and see, okay, there are people, there are cultures, their traditions, their civilizations, which respect these golden ideas of freedom and liberty.
So when things are spoken or sung in a language that's not English, will it be translated or will it just be?
I was thinking of translating it, but I did not do it.
Okay.
Because anytime there's a pain, anytime there's a bondage, anytime there's a freedom, anytime there's a slavery, anytime there is a suppression, people don't need a language.
That's correct.
They can easily understand it. So we left it to the imagination of people. The music is extremely powerful. We have done it from one of the brightest minds of musician. His name is Chami. He has done amazing music. You don't need to understand language at all. So we are presenting the booklets which have storylines. We are making a little bit announcement for each scene. So that should tell. We wanted to do based on the regions of India which were occupied very cleverly by East India Company from 1600s to 1857. So unfortunately or fortunately, Indian kings fought with each other. So it's very cleverly they occupied one at a time. So each language represents each part of the India, how they slowly annexed. So we need to use the originality there. So we use the languages of those particular pieces. Although I wrote entire poetry for the entire 32 scenes, but we got it translated to each area languages by people here.
And I appreciated what you said. That was, if you understand conflict and you understand suffering, and it's portrayed through drama, but it's also portrayed through music and dance and art.
Yes, it is.
And they portray very graphic and very emotional kinds of things.
That is true.
So I get that. You really don't need the translation of that.
You don't need. As a matter of fact, we in India, we have close to like around 22 languages. The guy who is doing the lighting design, his name is Gaurang Bhavsar. He is a Gujarati. He speaks different language, but I wrote in a South Indian language for Kannada. He sat down and said, Prasannaji, you don't need to change it to any language. Your emotions are so beautiful. You don't need to do. Plus, just leave it as it is, because nobody can translate the way you have written and uttered those words in terms of spirit of freedom. I don't think it should change. But still, I changed few things because I wanted to be close to the heart of people who raise their voice against suppression.
Yeah. When did you start thinking about this? When did this idea start to come to fruition in your mind and your heart? I really need to do that. Or was it always there and it's just been this building until you got to a point where, wow, this would be a great time to do this?
We have done it in little short dramas on this one, but never did a full-scale one. In 1919, I thought, okay, let's put all the things together. One of the main reasons for that is because I am a naturalized citizen here from India. So I wanted to show something about Indian culture, Indian freedom movement also, because not many people knew. So from 2019, I started working on it. So we got the music recorded in 2020, January. So we wanted to present it for last year, August. COVID came, it got moved. Fortunately, we were doing in the 75th year. It has 365 days, fortunately. That's why we are doing it before it hits August 15th, which is the 76th Independence Day. So we wanted to do on August 13th. So it's like two to 3 years of work.
Okay.
Put in this project.
Okay. We are talking to Prasanna Kasturi and Samavita Kasturi, and we're going to come back and we're going to kind of take apart these scenes a little bit and give our listeners a little visual about what they can expect and talk about what kind of dancing you're going to be doing. You might be doing some singing too. I don't know. We'll get into that. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston of St. Louis in Tune. We'll be right back for our next segment.
Each time that we plan a show for St. Louis in Tune, we strive to bring you informative, useful, and reflective stories, as well as interviews about current and historic issues and events that involve people, places, and things. And while St. Louis in Tune originates from the Gateway City and covers local topics, we also connect what's going on nationally as well. Our topics cover a wide range of arts, crime, education, employment, faith, finance, food, health, history, housing, humor, justice, sports, and that's just to name a few. We know there's many radio stations, programs, even podcasts that you could be listening to, and we're glad that you've chosen to listen to St. Louis in Tune. If you've missed any of our previously aired programs of St. Louis in Tune, simply visit stlintune.com. That's stlintune.com. There, you'll find every show from our first to our most current. Use the search engine to look for a show that might interest you from one of the many topics that we've covered. And drop us a line and tell us how we're doing. You can do that at stlintune@gmail.com. That's stlintune@gmail.com. St. Louis in Tune, heard Monday through Friday on the usradionetwork.com and many great radio stations around the U.S. and, of course, right here in St. Louis. And don't forget, check out our website, stlintune.com. That's stlintune.com.
Welcome back to St. Louis in Tune. This is Arnold Stricker with Mark Langston. We are having a conversation with Prasanna Kasturi and Samavita Kasturi about the performance coming up at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center on Saturday, August the 13th, and that is at 6 p.m. And if you want tickets for that, you need to go to the Two Hill Performing Arts Center website, which is twohill.universitytickets.com, twohill.universitytickets.com, and you can go in there and find some information about that. So this is about Samarpan, and the guests that we have are part of, I'm trying to get all my pronunciation correct, everybody listening out there, so I don't embarrass myself in front of our guests. Mr. Kasturi is the artistic director of the Surya Performing Arts in St. Louis. And we've been talking about the production that is music and dance and art and lighting, the whole 9 yards about that has formulating in his mind for 2 to 3 years. Pandemic pushed it off a little bit. And let's give listeners a little visual expectation of what they will expect when they come to the performance on August the 13th, because many people are not familiar with Indian dance or Indian music. They may not be familiar with that. What will they see when they come?
Do you want to explain?
Oh, sure. So the two styles that we specialize in at Surya Performing Arts is Bharatnatyam and Kathak. Bharatnatyam is mainly practiced and originated from South India, and Kathak is mainly practiced originated in North India, but everybody dances it. And so stylistically, they're a little bit different. Bharatnatyam, I guess you could compare it to ballet if you wanted to, in terms of like structure and like technique. And Kathak is very famous for its like really quick turns and like quick paced footwork. And so those are the two main dance styles that we're using in this production. Okay. But we've also experimented with a lot of folk dances, like from like specific regions and specific areas. We've taken those dances and tried to apply them to the region that the music is supposed to be representing. So we have a mix of traditional art forms and folk dances, and we also have quite a few fighting sequences, which might be interesting and exciting for the audience to watch. So yeah, it's a mix of acting and dancing, different styles of dancing, and a lot of like action on stage as well. So it's going to be really exciting for people to watch.
And 7 languages, correct?
8 totally.
8 total languages. And how many performers will people see? Like I was reading...
They're close to like around 120 people involved in this project. At any point of time, there'll be at least 50 to 60 people on the stage. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And most of the scenes are set as much close to the dress code of that particular time. So we are trying to get a British soldier of 1850s is wearing approximately Civil War attires of America. So we are trying to get matched that one. So you can see specific uniforms for British Army and specific uniform from Indian King's armies. And we got a lot of cannons coming in, a lot of rifles coming in, all fake by the way. So
right.
We had to do it in wood. We didn't want to get something. It looked alike once. So there's a lot of drama on the stage with a lot of beautiful costumes. I don't think people should have any problem in understanding the sequence. When in the early British sailors who came to India, they tried to do sales pitch with some local vendors. You can see people are coming and asking, can you sell me this particular goods? It's very easy to understand those because they are Indian people with Indian costumes, British coming in this red coats and hats, and there's a big ship coming like around 30 feet long, tall. We are trying to bring a real ship there. It's very interesting. We're experimenting with a lot of It's pretty easy. The flow of the story should flow without even knowing the languages.
Do you start like 1,400 years ago to give a little background, or are you starting right at the independence time, or where do you start?
Actually, it's not 1,400 years here. It is actually 1604 is the time when they came to India.
Okay.
British sailors came. Before that, Portuguese came. Vasco da Gama is the first one to come to Western India. But it's the British who really went directly to the emperor, Mughal emperor called Jahangir. So they went and asked him for a special permission called Farman. So they asked him, and that beautiful scene is there set up with a lot of palace scene, what we call it. So we are setting up the scene, and the emperor is sitting, and they come and ask. So it starts from 1615, where they established the first trading post in a place called, and then it goes all the way to 1947. It's approximately 350 to 360 years, but we summed it back to 400 years because Vasco da Gama came in like much earlier than British arrived.
Got you. Now, obviously, you got your dancing bug from your father and mother, but did you... Now, this is going to be a tough question because he's sitting right here.
Okay.
I don't know what you...
Did you feel pressured to do that, or was that something that was a natural kind of thing that you wanted to do?
So like dance in general?
Yes.
I think, so when I was younger, I really did not take it seriously. Like I was just coming to class and like making jokes and distracting everybody. And then he'd yell at me and I'd be like, oh, sorry. And then I'd keep talking, just that kind of thing. But I think I naturally grew into becoming serious into dance. I think they tried to push me here and there, but they mostly left it for myself because it's our own artistic journey, figuring out how we connect to the art form and what we like about it. So I definitely grew into it on my own to the point where I'm now I'm a junior at SLU and I'm declared a dance minor. So that's definitely something that I want to be doing as a part of my career. I grew into loving dance, especially Bharatanatyam and Kathak, Indian classical dancing. So I was really excited for this production and I'm very happy to be here and no pressure. Sometimes there's a little pressure, obviously, because I have to manage classes and help teach people and coordinate practices. But besides that, I'm doing it out of my own enjoyment. I really do love dancing. So.
In your background, your parents were both very active in literature and I would say in the arts based upon what I've read.
Yes.
When did you start getting involved with that?
My parents have written close to around 700 books in a language called Kannada.
Wow.
So my father always wrote every single day around 2-3 hours in the mornings.
Wow.
So he is the inspiring person. My mother is a strong backbone. My father wanted to dance when he was young. He ran away from his house to a place called Calcutta, where there was a famous guy, Uday Shankar, who is the brother of Shankar. So he wanted to learn with them, but he could not cope up with the expense, no support there. He came back. But in his mind, he had that idea, somebody has to learn dancing. So it started with my brother, and I was walking him to the dance class, and I was watching there, and I came back, you should do this way, that way correctly. I was helping. My father said, do you want to learn dancing? Yeah, I said, I don't mind. So it started in 1974, 75 time frame. So
Okay.
It's been quite a journey of last 45 years.
And you've taken, I don't want to say lessons, but for lack of better words, you've taken lessons in a variety of places around the world.
Yes, I did. I was fortunate to have great teachers like my guru, Maya Rauj. She's the one who went to Bolshoi Theater in Russia on a special scholarship from Indian government. She stayed in Russia for 3 years to learn choreography with the Bolshoi Theater. And she's, you can call us a mother of choreography ideas in India. There used to be classical dancers, not choreography. So she brought the choreography concepts of West into India.
Okay.
So I learned with her almost 10 years with them in my early childhood. And then later stages, I was able to learn with my Gurujis, like Birju Maharaj Ji, who is one of the topmost legendary dancers in India. And my Bharatanatyam, I learned with my another great teacher. She comes from a tradition of Mysore style of dancing. Srinivasan. There's another lady called Narma. She is from another South Indian style called Pandanallur. So these are all very well-rooted teachers. They devoted and dedicated their lives for dancing. So I'm very fortunate to learn with them. Apart from that, I took a lot of workshops here and there. So I learned with great musicians. So to have idea of music, singing, because most of the production music I have the basic idea, then I'll talk to the music director. So fortunate to have great teachers. Without teachers, we don't have. I'm very humble to them. Still now, their blessings are on my head.
But you've done something that some performers do, and I would say most, now that's a generalization, that you have really started your own performing arts center and you're teaching dance to really anyone, but mainly youth. And your daughter even was in the classes, and I know how that works. Okay, I'm not a dancer though, but my dad was a PE teacher, and
Okay.
so I can identify.
Yeah.
But that is something in giving back and continuing what you've learned and giving the heritage and instilling that. Do you see a lot of interest from not only the Indian community but the American community?
Yeah, they do come, but it all depends on how much we can offer to them. I was a full-scale software engineer, and at one point of time I said, okay, let me do what nobody's doing here. There was not a full-scale performance school. There was one or two here, but not somebody who can create a dance festival so they can show the beautiful Indian dances. So we did that. So I left my job in 2002. So it was a very well-paying software job. If you look here, left and right, all Indians are IT guys, are doctors. I left that job because I wanted to be an ambassador of culture. That's very important. So I started that. Then I brought dance festivals. We have done close to 13 dance festivals in St. Louis and music festivals. We invited a lot of artists from India, from locally from United States, a lot of dance groups. They come and perform every year. So this Samarpan is only a special program for us, but we do other festivals in a regular way. So people do come. We had not a lot of Americans, because it takes a little bit of understanding of learning a traditional art form. It's a little hard for them. Many people came and tried, and they did learn quite a bit. Had few people, and most of our students are mostly Indian, because they wanted to, understand the culture for their children. So best thing is to learn dancing,
Absolutely.
because it's a dance sits on top of everything. They should know the language, they should know the music, they should know the stories, they should know the scenarios, everything. So a lot of Indian parents send their children to understand the culture part of it.
And how much of that heritage and that initial dance that you've learned, like from your dad and even from your mom, has really helped you in other portions, in other kind of functions of dance?
I will say that I think learning from my father and my mother has definitely given me like a different experience compared to other people, because I sit at home and I watch them work like continuously for festivals and for productions and like any other projects that they're heading on. And because I see that, I think I actually have genuine interest in not only the dancing part of it, but like he said, it's not just dance, music, storytelling, it's the scenario, it's the environment, there's so much to take into consideration beyond dancing. So I think one thing that I learned is like taking consideration the literature of the dance that you're trying to portray. That's a very important thing to take into consideration, because we have to like portray expressions, right? You need to know the meaning of each song. And sometimes to know the meaning, you have to know the time period. So you have to have almost like a historical angle when you're looking at dances. And yeah, it's not just dance, it's culture, it's a representation, it's many different things for me.
That's a great way to describe that, because the arts are something that, how do I say this so I can make sure I understand this? It really overlaps a lot of different things. When you talk about song, and when you talk about dance, and when you talk about literature and poetry, it really expresses the feelings of what are happening at the time. And to understand another culture is very important. And I'm glad you said what you said about the languages, because I don't need to understand the 8 different languages.
No, you don't need.
I just need to pay attention,
Yes.
listen and watch, and let my heart speak for what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. And I think that's going to be good. Final closing thoughts you guys have for our listeners out there.
Yeah, Samarpan is basically a symbol of human qualities, human emotions. And if anybody believes this particular feelings and laws or rules, whatever humanity has created, it has to be uniform for every human beings, they should come and watch. Because Samarpan really represents that divide, what we always call, rich and poor, north and south, east and west, black and white. So why are we forming those things? We know that from so many millions of years, so this is not necessary. We are all from the same one single earth. We have to understand and live together. So that particular information is the one I need to pass to my listeners here. So if they believe in that, they should come and watch our show, because that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with everything that he said, but I also think especially for the youth, not only for like Indian kids, but all youth people my age in general, I think this is a really great educational opportunity, because this is a whole time period that we are not taught in school. Like what we were talking about, like World War II, I didn't know Indian soldiers were even involved. I didn't even know my country was involved.
Right.
More so like against their will, honestly. So this is a very great educational opportunity, but it's also engaging, it's artistic. There's so many people on stage, and it's very empowering to see everybody come together and perform together for one cause, and everybody's so driven and motivated, and I know it's going to be a really enjoyable and educational experience. So I hope that everybody comes and watches.
Sounds great. Samarpan will be presented Saturday, August the 13th at 6 p.m. at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center. If you want more information for tickets, go to Touhill, that's TOUHILL.universitytickets.com. That's the UMSL website, University of Missouri St. Louis. And I want to thank Prasanna Kasturi and Samavita Kasturi for coming in and talking about that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are glad you listened to this episode of St. Louis in Tune. Please share this podcast or tell a friend. St. Louis in Tune is produced in cooperation with KWRH 92.9 FM and Motif Media Group. For St. Louis in Tune, I'm Arnold Stricker.